share so we can not only the presentation but some Q&A. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you our guest speaker today, Steve Bruemmer. I've known Steve and Britta and their daughters for a long time, for about 15 years. We met through the Wednesday Night Laundry Runners, a local running club here in Monterey, and it's been a pleasure to run with them. I've always appreciated Steve's quiet, calm demeanor. I'm sure he has his moments. Britta would have to attest to that. I've never seen it. He's just even keeled. And you'll read in the La Rueda a little bit about his experience and whatnot. What he doesn't say in there is anything about himself. He's going to talk about the community. He's going to talk about everyone around him, including his lovely family that helped him survive and thrive through this event. But there's steel and a backbone to a man that undergoes this and returns looking better and younger and more vital than I remember seeing you before. So it's my great pleasure to invite Steve Bruemmer to speak with us. Thank you. Thank you. Great, thank you.
Thank you, Dino. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
You can hear me well? Good. Yes, my name is Steve Bruemmer, and I am that unfortunate fellow who exactly 1 year ago today was swimming at Lovers Point Beach when I was bitten ferociously by a great white shark and lived to tell the tale, barely. We will, I hope, have a few minutes for questions at the end, but I want to take two questions that I get all the time and just deal with them first. The first question I get often is, how big was that shark? I can give you the numbers, but it just doesn't do it justice. So instead, I have brought along a visual aid. My wife, Rita, and my daughter, Alice, will show you how big the shark was. That's a 15-foot, probably 2,000-pound great white shark. And Brita will now demonstrate where it bit me on herself. So right across the thighs, its upper jaw, right across my thighs and back across my lower abdomen. I have essentially what looks like a C-section scar across my lower abdomen, and my thighs were very badly bitten. The second question I get all the time is, will you swim again? I was a member of the kelp crawlers. I am a member of the kelp crawlers. The kelp crawlers have been swimming in Monterey Bay from Lovers Point for many, many years, 20 years or more, I'm not sure. I love swimming. I swam for a dozen years every Sunday until I retired. Then I started swimming during the week as well. And people ask me, will you swim again? And all I have to do is say, look at the visual aid. No way I'm going back in that ocean. Heck no. Here's the story. I'll be sort of brief about the story, but I'm going to build in lessons I've learned and conclusions I've come to as part of this story. I was at Lovers Point, and it was a June day, which normally June in Lovers Point is not real sunny, not real warm. This particular day was sunny, warm, no wind. Beautiful day. no waves, no chop in the ocean, a fabulous day for swimming.
I'm just gonna get this up there. We had it taped.
Thank you. Microphone back in Oregon. Fabulous day for swimming. I swam out from the beach on the left side, right there. That's the standard place we all swim from. That beach faces east, so there really aren't any waves there. I swam around this point, right here. That's the pier. Swim around the pier, where you'll often see fish. I went from there up around the point. Between the pier and the point, you see lots of urchins, because it is largely an urchin barren now. Around the point, you will see lots of sea stars. And this is what my watch recorded as I swam on Strava from the beach down here, around Lover's Point, and then I went out to Otter Point, and I came all the way back. You'll find a lot of kelp. There's kelp growing back here now. Right through here, you see a lot of eel grasses, which these beautiful dark green grasses that just flow back and forth in the waves. It's so beautiful. The kelp is gorgeous on a sunny day with the blue water and the light coming through the water. The kelp is golden. It is so pretty. I came back around the point, and right here at that arrow, 150 yards from the end, I'd finished a 1.5 mile swim, about 50 minutes, a mere 150 yards from the beach. All of a sudden, I was turned on my side and flipped over and thrown up in the air and pulled down by a 15-foot great white shark that then spit me out. There I was underwater, probably 5 feet deep. I could see light that way, so I knew that was up, and it was dark below me. And at my right, an arm's length away, was the head of the great white shark. And this is so surprising to me. I had air in my lungs, so I didn't need air immediately, but looking at it, I was calm, which doesn't make any sense. I saw its teeth. I saw, oh, that's a great white. I was looking in its eye, and it was looking at me, and it was bobbing its head back and forth. Like it was deciding whether to bite me again or not. No, I didn't feel exactly pain, but I was very badly hurt. And I knew I couldn't possibly swim back to shore. And I knew if it bit me again, I was in terrible trouble. And in that moment, calm as I was thinking, look, I'm wearing a white hat. I've got goggles on. I taste of neoprene. I'm not your food. Don't bite me again. And so I had this idea, this notion that their noses are sensitive and you're supposed to punch them in the nose. Well, it was just out of punching reach, but I hit it with my fingertips several times and I kicked at it, and then it was gone. I don't remember it swimming away, but it was just gone. So I got myself back to the surface, my head popped up, and I realized, no, my legs are hanging down. This is not good. That thing can come back. So I paddled real hard to get my knees up, and I got my left knee up to the water, and there, where there should have been neoprene and skin, there was nothing but red. Nothing but red. On the later photos, it looks just like ground beef. You can see a few inches of my femur. It scored the femur and knocked a chunk of the bone off of my femur. My leg was not going to work. I couldn't swim back. So at that point, I just started yelling for help. I was underwater for a dozen seconds. I just started yelling for help. And that's when all my luck changed. Because a few hundred yards away, on paddleboards, was a couple on their honeymoon, not their honeymoon, their 12th wedding anniversary. And they heard me, one a police officer, a first responder, and the other a nurse, a medical professional. And they turned their paddleboards and came straight toward me. On the beach, people heard me. There were a lot of people out there. It was a warm June day. On the beach was a surf rescue guy, Heath, who was teaching ocean appreciation to some kids from Kansas. When a guy on the beach yelled, "Oh my goodness, that is a huge shark that just bit that guy," and they got all the kids out of the water, and Heath knew exactly what to do. Real quick, what would you do? Well, Heath knew grab two surfboards. He was trained, put one on top of the other and paddle out to me. They got to me in about a minute and a half, which seems fast unless you are out there yelling, bleeding to death. A minute and a half of yelling help and not seeing anyone come is the longest minute and a half of my life. And I didn't think I'm going to die, but I thought, if someone doesn't show up quick, I'm dead. There was so much blood. They got to me. Paul, the policeman, got there first. He tried to get me on his paddleboard. It didn't work. Heath showed up. He got off. He got the second board out. Amy showed up. The three of them, with some help from me, got me onto the third paddleboard. And then they paddled me into shore. In this picture taken from the video at the restaurant, you can see, hopefully, you can see that there are two surfboards. One there, they're both white. That's Heath face down paddling. Me on the second surfboard, you can kind of see my white hat right there. I was holding onto his heel. He told me, grab my heel. He knew exactly what to do. He's a surf rescue guy. On the back, so that's me lying down. Behind me, that's Amy. She saw that I was going to fall off that surfboard. My legs didn't work. She jumped off of her paddleboard onto my surfboard, grabbed my legs and held them in place, half of her body on my surfboard, half of her body in the water. The water was red, blood's pouring off of me. She needed to kick to add propulsion. She felt like she was chumming the water with her own legs. For all they knew, there's a shark was still circling around. It took them 2 minutes to get me to the shore, and she was so traumatized she missed a week of work. At the shore, Paul had been yelling. Oh, and in the previous picture, Paul, the policeman, he wasn't in the picture. He had his phone with him. He was calling 911. When they got me to the shore, he had been yelling tourniquets. The people knew what to do. They were vacationing independently. Wait a minute, as if having a first responder, a medical professional, and a surf rescue guy show up to fetch you out of the water, as if that wasn't enough. On the beach, vacationing independently, were two ICU nurses and a doctor. They got tourniquets on me right away. The ambulance showed up and took me to Natividad. From the time the shark bit me until the time I was on the operating table at Natividad, 28 miles away, 59 minutes, which is shockingly fast. From the time I hit the door at Natividad to the time the surgeons were starting their operation, 19 minutes. There is a lot to do between the time you show up in an ambulance and the time you're on the operating room table. That's what a level 2 trauma center can do. That's what Natividad can do. They can save the lives of people who are at death's edge. None of this works without blood donors. I did look at your website. It is lovely to see that blood donation is a big deal for Rotarians. Most of my life, I only gave blood a few times. Unaware, I just didn't think about it. I was skating by on other people donating blood. And I didn't even think about it, didn't realize it. Now I know. Now I'm a regular blood donor. And I hope the rest of you don't make the same mistake I did and that you all give blood regularly. This is me leaving the hospital. I was in the hospital for 3 weeks. One day, only one day in intensive care. My injuries were severe, but they were to muscle tissue. I didn't have any broken bones. I did not have any internal organ damage, which was a big surprise, and no major blood vessels. Although it missed my iliac artery by, according to the surgeon, 1 millimeter. Lovely people. You all know, hospitals are really hard. And they treated me at Natividad, physically, they treated me really well. They took care of me very well. But also mentally, they were endlessly positive and kind. And I really appreciated it. That helped a lot. So what saved my life? Well, it's this whole chain of events. The Good Samaritans who fished me out of the water, the tourniquets on the beach, and then this incredible system we have where 911 has an ambulance show up right away and they take you to the trauma center and they use the blood from the blood donors to save people's lives. That Good Samaritan idea, that I heard on KSVW, the Good Samaritan saved me. And everyone, Good Samaritans, everybody kind of nods their heads. Well, I didn't quite remember the Good Samaritan story, so I looked it up. I reread the Good Samaritan story. The Good Samaritan found someone on the side of the road, badly beaten, patched the wounds, took him to the rehabilitation place, which is an inn, paid for it, and said to the owner, I'll be back in a week. And if you need more money to finish the rehabilitation, I'll pay for that again. And what an incredible and wonderful story. But as I thought about it, I thought, well, that really doesn't describe what the heroes did, the people that risked their lives to save a stranger. That is more like the blood donors. It's the blood donors who give of themselves anonymously to save the stranger. And it's also like the taxpayers. That 911 system, that ambulance, and the trauma center, they are paid for in part by our taxes. So you all saved me. Everyone who paid their taxes, you had a lot to do with having that ambulance show up quickly and getting me to the trauma center. So thank you. I owe thanks to absolutely everybody. And you might wonder, how fast did that ambulance arrive? Well, this is a picture of Lover's Point out there in the distance. That's the point. Back here is the pier. This is from a security camera at a house. And in the far background, you can see the shark jumping out of the water. That is the shark, and the splash comes up and then it lands with me. I'm probably in that shark's mouth. Now, this is the same security camera, not zoomed in, but this was 3 minutes after I started yelling. 3 minutes after I started yelling, that's still me and the rescuers. We're still in the water. They're starting to bring me back. Way over here on the left, that's the ambulance. The ambulance arrived 3 minutes after I started yelling. And you think, how in the world is that possible? Well, it's possible. You're all business people. It's money. You have enough money, you can make an ambulance appear anywhere you want in 3 minutes. So this community has decided we are not going to let trauma victims die. If you are not killed in the trauma, you're going to live. And I thank you all. I think it is love your neighbor as much as anything I've ever seen. So thank you all. What restored me to health? Well, the rehabilitation center, yes. And they did a wonderful job, physical therapy and everything that you need. And then when you leave the hospital, you have 3 issues to deal with: mental, physical, and financial. Mentally, I don't have nightmares, I'm glad to say. My family and my community have supported me incredibly. People brought us meals for 6 weeks. People sent cards and letters and called and visited. They have just been wonderful. That staying positive. This was a tough year. I was in a wheelchair for months. That staying positive is really valuable, and the community and family helped tremendously. Physically, I was going to PT a couple of times a week. You can see now I look fine. I still need a walker to walk. But I had surgery 3 months ago at Stanford to try to repair my right quadriceps. The nerves to my right quadriceps were severed, and they were not going to grow back. So the surgeons tried to repair the nerves so that my right quads might work. If the surgery works, 1.5 years from now, I might be able to walk safely without the walker. Nerves only grow 1 inch a month, so it takes a while. And then financially, well, I was in a union. I have good insurance. And I was also saved by the No Surprises Act, which went into effect in 2021. The No Surprises Act says if you are in an emergency and you're taken to a hospital, they can't charge you out-of-network fees. And that covers everything. So at Natividad, they're in my network, but the surgeon is sort of a freelancer. He was not in my network. Before the No Surprises Act, I believe he could have taken the money from my insurance and then billed me directly for the rest. And that would have been tens of thousands of dollars. So thanks to the No Surprises Act as well. This was a picture from October. After I had just gotten out of the wheelchair, we wanted to thank everyone who had supported us and made my recovery possible. So in here, you'll find the heroes who fished me out of the water. You'll find the mother of one of the ICU nurses who put a tourniquet on me on the beach. There are people from Natividad, and all those folks that visited and sent cards, and swimmers and runners in St. Mary's Church and MPC where I worked. This was a wonderful event. This was essentially a celebration of life, which is normally done after someone passes away. I recommend I recommend having your celebration of life while you're still alive. It was wonderful. My outlook, my right quadriceps don't work. I can walk a bit, but I need the walker for anything significant. Maybe that'll be better in a year and a half. I still have some nerve pain. I'm on medication. The medication makes me foggy headed. We're trying to find something different. If I stumble for words, it's probably, I'm hoping it's the medication. But today marks the restart of my life. This last year was about rehabilitation and recovery. Now I know where I am. I'm good enough. I can't ride a bike like I used to. I can't run. Maybe I'll be able to, but I can do everything else. I have restarted volunteering at the aquarium. I have returned to tutoring kids through the San Pablo Apostolic Church. I joined a book club. So look, we're living our lives, and it can be a fabulous life. I can lose a little something and still have a fabulous life. My younger brother, I have many examples in my life of where people have lost something and yet they still have a fabulous life. My younger brother has Parkinson's. He's had it for 12 years. There are a lot of things he can't do, but he has dealt with this disease with incredible grace. He focuses every day on what he can do, not on what he cannot do. And I know basically everyone my age and older, you've all been through major traumas. You've had cancers and Parkinson's, and you've lost spouses and in some cases children. Nobody gets through this life easily. So I have great empathy for all of you. That's another thing that happens when you undergo trauma, is that you develop a lot of empathy for other people. So I'm sorry for all the things you've been through. I'm sorry you didn't get all the attention, all the wonderful attention that I've gotten. People come out of the woodwork to wish me well. I wish everyone could have that. These are the three heroes. In the center, that's Amy, the nurse. To her right is her husband, Paul, the policeman. And to the left, that's Heath. He runs a solar panel installation company, and when he can, he surfs. Oh, doggone it, I had something really important to say about them. Oh, that's right. They're heroes. And in fact, they're different than you and me. They're braver than you and me. They're more skilled than we are. They're better looking than we are. The thing they don't have is they're not very sensible and not very prudent. I mean, if you had that surfboard and there was yelling and blood and shark, you would say, I wonder if that shark has gone away yet. You might slow down. You might not paddle as fast as you could possibly paddle to get there. Am I right? When you got close and you saw a circle of blood 10 feet in diameter, you might think, well, I don't know about this. These three are not very sensible. And that's why they're heroes. On Saturday, this Saturday, the 24th, at noon, there will be a celebration. They have won the Carnegie Hero Award. There will be a celebration, a ceremony where they get this award. The mayor of Pacific Grove will speak. Everyone's invited. I hope you can come out. I hope you all can come out at noon, watch the ceremony. Hey, bring a picnic with you. We'll have some cake and some lemonade. Bring a picnic. Celebrate the heroes, celebrate the first responders, celebrate a community that has come together and has decided, if you're a trauma victim, we're going to keep you alive. What a wonderful place to live. Why did I get bit? Well, nobody can say for sure, but here are two key factors. In 2014, our water warmed up. It stayed warm for 7 years. I know this because I'm a swimmer, and that water, when it warms up from, say, 55 to, say, 62, it is a huge difference for a swimmer. So that water warmed up, I would say 5 degrees. That's not scientific, that's my impression. Would you agree 5 degrees?
At times, yeah, we've had 1 week heat waves and 20.
Yes. So from 2014 to 2017, the water warmed up. That brought the juvenile sharks north. Juveniles need warm water. They need it in the 60s. Normally, they stay from Point Conception at Santa Barbara down into Mexico. But when our water warmed up, the sharks came north. You can now go to Santa Cruz and take a shark watching tour. Like you can take a boat tour. You can take, like you can take a whale watching tour. You can take a shark watching tour now of Santa Cruz. They are reliably up in Aptos. Where there are juvenile sharks, eventually there are adult sharks. I was bitten by an adult. The size of the adult that I was bit by matches a juvenile that would have been in our area in, say, 2015, 2016. So that's one possibility. There are more sharks specifically in Monterey Bay because of global warming. Second possibility is there are more sharks generally and more seals because of conservation. The marine protected areas work. The work that the aquarium is doing works. Our ocean, our Monterey Bay has more life in it, more sea otters. Not perfect, but things are getting better. So it might just be that there were more sharks and I was just unlucky. But my daughter thinks, she thought, I felt like I was safe from climate change. I live in America and whatnot. And now climate change has bit my dad. This is a drone picture of Aptos in the north part of the bay. All those circles are basking juvenile white sharks. So they are here in enormous numbers. And I'm part of a couple of different climate change groups. So I want you to know that if you want to do something to limit your carbon production, there are two things you can do that are really easy. One is have your energy provider, 3cenergy.org, have 3cenergy.org provide you with clean energy. You just choose 3C Prime. Go to that website, 3cenergy.org, pick 3C Prime, and all of your energy will be carbon-free. It costs the average consumer about $5 a month. Depends how much electricity you use. But for about $5 a month, you can make a big difference in how much carbon you produce. The second thing is the Inflation Reduction Act provides an enormous amount of money for you to electrify your home. If your if your furnace is going to go out in the next couple of years, if your water pump, if your stove, these things are going to go out in the next couple of years, there is for most people, something like $20,000 for fixing up your electric panel, your wiring, your induction stove, a heat pump water heater, a heat pump, EV stuff, an enormous amount of money. Particularly for retired people where your income has dropped, it depends on your income and your zip code. So what you do is you go to rewiringamerica.org, rewiringamerica.org, and click on the calculator and put in your zip code and your income, and it will tell you how much money you can have to get rid of the gas from your house, replace it with all electric. Let me point out, scientists believe that 13% of the asthmas in children in America are caused by gas stoves. Everyone, for your health, you ought to replace your gas stove with an induction stove. They work better, they boil water faster. Thank you for that. I have several surprising, heartwarming stories. Do I have time for one? Let me tell you one. I'll tell you the first one. I'll tell you the Winnie the Pooh story. One of the bicycling guys, his name is Tony, went to Bookworks over in PG, the bookstore coffee shop in Pacific Grove, to buy a book for me. He went into Bookworks and he said to the clerk, I want to buy a copy of Winnie the Pooh. Do you have it? And the clerk said, yes, I think we do. She said, I'll go check. And Tony said, I want the hardback. I don't want the paperback, I want the hardback. So the clerk went and found it and she brought it back to him and says, here, I've got the book. And the clerk said, let me guess, this is a gift. And Tony said, well, yes, it is. She said, well, I can gift wrap it for you, or I can put it in this nice gift bag. Which do you prefer? And Tony said, well, I've got to mail it. If it's in the bag, I mean, how am I going to, he said, wait a minute, help me out here. He said, this is for a friend of mine who was bit by a shark and I've got to get it to him. What would be best? And she said, oh, well, that'll be easy. I'll take it to him. That's my dad. So when Rebecca, my other daughter, got home, she said, Dad, this is for you. A guy named Tony bought it at Bookworks today. And I pulled out of the gift bag, Winnie the Pooh, a children's book. And I thought, that's odd. And then it hit me. I said, oh, This is someone who has been through significant trauma and knows that I cannot read. The trauma, the anesthesia, whatever it was, I could not read. There's a card. I pulled the card out. It said, "Dear Steve, this is Tony." He said, 20 years ago, I was diagnosed with colon cancer and given a 50-50 chance to last the year. And he said I couldn't read because of the trauma I went through. The first book I was able to read was Winnie the Pooh. It has small, beautiful words and short chapters. Maybe it will help you. And sure enough, I took that book and I tried. It took me a week to read Winnie the Pooh. Beautiful story. And when I finished, then I was able to read the New York Times and then eventually the New Yorker, and then eventually I could read books. So Tony, it did help me. And I just find that such a touching story. Everyone, everyone has gone through something big. And we need to have a lot of empathy and care for each other. So that's enough. Reminder, the Carnegie Hero Awards, Saturday, 12 noon. Come on. Hey, you have to eat lunch. You might as well have a picnic. You might as well just do it in the park and celebrate our community. Thank you very much.